Hi everyone and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, or welcome if you are new to my channel. So today the 1981 horror movie that we're going to take a look at as part of my 1980s horror series it's one that I do have on physical media. It's actually part of my Blu-ray Arrow collection. And that movie is Madhouse. So yeah, got this it's a very nice Blu-ray. It's got a lot of special features there. I don't know if you guys can see that. If you want to do a little pause there. But it's a really nice transfer, a nice addition, a release of the movie. So yeah, let's talk about Madhouse, still from 1981. So Madhouse, originally titled "There Was a Little Girl," and also known as "And When She Was Bad," is a 1981 Italian slasher film directed and co-written by, I'm probably going to butcher these names, Ovidio G. Asantis. The plot follows a school teacher in Savannah, Georgia, being stalked by her psychopathic twin sister in the days leading up to their birthday. The film's original title takes its name from a poem called "There Was a Little Girl" by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. So yeah, directed by Ovidio G. Asanitis. I don't know. That's probably not the way to pronounce it, but hey, I'm an American. What can I say? So the film opens with two twin girls, one sitting in a rocking chair being rocked by the other. The girl rocking in the chair stops momentarily and bashes the face of the girl in the rocking chair until she bleeds into unconsciousness. Julia Sullivan is a young school teacher for deaf children living in Savannah, Georgia. She has horrid memories of her childhood, which was scarred by her sadistic twin sister Mary. At the urging of her uncle James, a local Catholic priest, Julia visits Mary, suffering from a severe skin disease, in a mental institution. The meeting does not go well, and Mary vows to make Julia suffer as she has suffered. As their as their mutual birthday approaches, Julia learns that Mary has escaped the mental institution. Soon after, several of Julia's friends and neighbors begin to die gruesome deaths in the house she lives in, some involving a mysterious Rottweiler dog who attacks its victims, mauling them to death. One of Julia's students, Sasha Robertson Jr., is killed in a park by the Rottweiler one afternoon. So that's kind of the setup and the premise of this movie. As far as the cast goes, we have Trish Everly as Julia Sullivan, Michael McRae as Sam Edwards, Dennis Robertson as Father James, Morgan Hart as Helen, Allison Biggers as Mary Sullivan, and Edith Ivy as Amanda Beauregard. So yeah, that's the setup, the premise, and the cast for the 1981 slasher movie Madhouse. The reason I put slasher in quotes is because I really don't feel like this is a slasher movie. I think this is more of a giallo psychological thriller that has slasher elements in it. And that'll kind of come through in my review and my pros and cons here. But let's talk about my review for Madhouse. So we'll start with the good things, the pros for this movie. I do think the kills are sort of unique. Including the ones that many of the best, goriest kills are the ones done by the evil Rottweiler. That's kind of the pet of this killer, I guess. This where it mauls people to death, basically tearing out their throats. These are the best kills in terms of the uniqueness of having a dog, a Rottweiler, do the killing, which, you know, a lot of times in slasher movies it's stab, 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 and this movie has some of that too. But the Rottweiler kills I thought was very unique and interesting, and also gory. On-screen carnage as a result of these throat rip-out kills by this Rottweiler. So that's definitely one of the highlights of the movie. The movie does have good cinematography with sort of an Italian giallo shooting style, camera work, POV shots, and shadowy silhouettes kind of moving through this house or kind of behind the shadows in certain areas of certain characters. I thought that was effective. But as I said, that's less slasher like and more American giallo like. But it was good. I thought the acting was quite good in this movie, especially for if you want to consider this a slasher. You don't tend to get good acting in these kind of movies. But the acting's good here, probably because this isn't a teenage slasher movie. But I especially thought Trish Everly, who plays Julia, the main character, and her evil twin sister, Allison Biggers, I thought those two were the stars of the movie as far as their performances. But really, the entire cast does a good job here, doing what they're asked to do based on the script and the direction. There's some characters that are a little bit over the top at times, but again, I don't think that's a result of performance or acting. I think that's a result of the script and the kind of movie that it is with the giallo part of it. I have to say, there are some good tension-building moments and scenes, suspenseful sequences that give this a bit more atmosphere than other certain type of slasher movies. Just sort of the build-up of, is there somebody in the house, and what's that noise, those kind of things, but then the way that it's executed as well. There's a couple of jump scares, of course, but for the most part, I thought the build-up of tension and suspense, the first 2/3 of the movie, basically, was quite well done, and I was kind of into that. I thought the score and the music used in the movie was kind of interesting and creepy at times. Very much a product of its time. Borrowing a little bit from movies like Friday the 13th, but also having like a synthesizer sort of sound at times. So, I mean, it's not a score that you would hear nowadays. It's definitely late 70s, early 80s. But it did add to the atmosphere of the movie, I thought, with some of that music. I enjoyed the setting. Finally, my final pros, I enjoyed the setting within this house that Julia lives in, whether it be the staircase, the attic, the basement specifically, lots of doors for characters to try to escape through. I thought the solid. I thought the setting was really solid. Not the solid was very setting. I have sometimes what is that, dyslexia, where you get ahead of yourself and you say one word before the other. I don't know. That might be the wrong word, but yeah, I thought it was solid. The setting was solid for this movie. So as you can see, there's a lot of good things that I liked about this movie. However, there's also a lot of cons I have with this movie, and it's basically the story. Two things: the overall story and especially the ending are really what let this movie down for me. The story and the ending really just don't work for me. I was very underwhelmed at the end of this movie, as there's a lot of First of all, there's a lot of unanswered questions. There's a lot of plot holes. And just an average at best third act that wasn't nearly as interesting as the first two acts of the movie. When I was talking about sort of that tension building and those scenes of suspense, it doesn't lead to a satisfying conclusion. At least it didn't for me. And that was disappointing, obviously. There's a certain twist that takes place at the beginning of the third act, with a kind of a secondary killer character that was really not hard to see coming. It wasn't really a big twist for me. But even worse than that, this character, when they go full on character killer accomplice, whatever you want to say, they just act so over the top and so nuts that it really doesn't jive with how they were at the beginning of the film. You don't have that. It's just a complete miss on any honest type of character transition. You know, it's one thing to see characters in slasher movies or horror movies in general where there's just something a little bit off about them at the beginning that you might say, once they make their character turn to being evil or whatever or nuts, it's like, oh yeah, I could kind of see that coming. And even though I wasn't shocked by the twist of this character being revealed for reasons, it just didn't work for me. There was no honest transition of that character going from being hardly suspicious or nuts at all to just being completely. I think if the character hadn't been so over the top nuts and had just been kind of nuts, if that makes sense, I think it would have worked better. But it's just a complete 180, and that really dropped the ball in the third act as much as anything, even more so than the twist of that character being revealed. So that was a big letdown. There are some pretty brutal and gory kills, or I should say, this is more of a warning for people that might be sensitive. There are some pretty brutal and gory, and it'll be upsetting to some, on-screen animal kills and deaths in this movie. So be warned about that. There's involving a cat and a dog. But especially the one involving the Rottweiler at the end. It's pretty gruesome, and they don't cut away from it either. There's also a kid being killed in this movie, but that one's not on screen. They do cut away from that. Now I don't know if they ever shot him being killed on screen and then they had to cut it. Probably not, because this was a video nasty, this movie as a whole. So it just makes me wonder if they did shoot a scene where the kid's killed. Probably, I don't know. I mean, they never would do that nowadays, of course, but it's not in the movie, so that's fine. But like I said, be warned of those animal deaths, especially the one with the Rottweiler. As evil as that dog is and as many people as it kills, it's really just following the commands of its human, I don't know if master's the right word, but it's human counterpart, I guess. And then some of the gore effects outside of the Rottweiler attacks. I think the Rottweiler attacks are very well done in terms of the kills and the gore and everything. But outside of that, there's some obvious dummies that are used here, specifically at the opening sequence of this movie where a doll is basically getting hit in the face. And I don't know if we're supposed to believe that this is the twin sister, but it's so obvious, and yeah, that's just bad. And again, I know the time that this was made, they didn't have CGI, they didn't have all the tricks of the trade like they do now, or even 15 years after this, but that was pretty noticeable. Kind of took me out of that any tension or horror that scene could have had. Also, the hatchet kill that's talked about a lot at the end of this movie, it's not very convincing. They kind of go back and forth showing it and cutting away to the character doing the killing with the hatchet. But when they cut to the person, you can obviously see it's like a mannequin or a dummy, and like the guts and the blood hanging off of them aren't nearly as convincing as that of when the Rottweiler attacks people. So yeah, not really. I wasn't really buying the practical gore effects there. And then finally, the pacing isn't all that great. Specifically, there's a chase sequence that goes on for way too long towards the end of this movie. Basically, when that secondary killer character is revealed, like I talked about, he goes in his full nut. They go in their full rage of being a nut, which, like I said, doesn't work for me. But they chase this. I guess it's this this character that's renting in this house or this apartment from Julia that's next door, or above, I should say, in the attic. And first of all, the character just sits in this rocking chair, which is obviously homage to the beginning, even though she's being rocked by the person trying to kill her. That whole scene just bugged me, and like I said, it went on for too long. I thought the pacing was better in the first two acts, but the third act really lets this movie down on a lot of different levels for me. So I don't know, guys. That's my feeling on Madhouse. I don't think it's a great slasher movie if you want to consider it a slasher movie. I think it's a pretty decent, and I would recommend at least a one-time watch as a giallo psychological thriller movie with slasher elements in it. I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10, and I think I'm being kind of generous, because I thought about giving it a 6 or a 6.5 out of 10, because I was just really let down by that third act. I really was. I don't know if budget came into it. I don't know if they reshot it, or if this was the movie they always wanted it to make, but it was not executed well at the end for me. But I will be nice. I'll give it a 7 out of 10 because there are good things about it. Obviously, I'm going to keep it in my collection because I really do like the transfer of this movie, the 2K restoration from the original camera negative, and all the special features. I do like having this in my Arrow collection, so I'm going to keep it. And I'm going to recommend to people that like giallos and slashers to at least give it a one-time watch. I believe you can find it and stream it on YouTube as well as other streaming services. But for me, 7 out of 10 for Madhouse, generously. Go ahead and comment down below what you guys think of Madhouse. I know there's a lot of people that really like this movie. They think it's an underrated slasher gem from the early 80s. To each their own. It is an interesting combo of, you have American actors and actresses in this movie, but an Italian director. And sometimes that works, that mesh of Italian giallo with a American slasher, but not for me, not in this movie. So anyway, 7 out of 10. Please like this video, hit the little notification bell, and subscribe to my channel, so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews for this 1980s horror series, or any of my other great horror content that I have coming out in or around it. But But yeah, I would be curious what other people what they have to say about this movie, because I do see a lot of positive reviews for this movie. Some negative, like mine. Although I wouldn't really call this a negative review. I don't hate the movie. The movie's not terrible. It's definitely not the worst horror movie out there. But at the same time, I was a little let down by being a slasher movie. So take that for what you will. But with that being said, thank you for watching. Hope everybody's doing well. But as always, stay scared. Bye.